One more dizzle. Okay, cool. So that went live pretty quick right there, actually. And we're just doing it through YouTube Studio, which doesn't look too bad if you can see it through your phone. For those of you who are already in here, we're just testing out to see how this is working. Because, wow, I have so much space now. It's not just this. Does this resolution make me look fat? There's so much space. I'm kind of excited. All right, let's like drink some tea and stuff. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Good. Thanks for letting us know. Since you're here, you should help us decide what tea we should have today. Because again, I was trying to say in our last attempt to do the live, we do a lot of like experiments and stuff. So I think it'd be good to kind of mix it up a little bit, keep it open-ended. So I have nothing prepared yet, which kind of feels refreshing. I'm kind of wondering what you'd like to have to practice. Not the resolution. I like it. You can see more of my world. I don't just live in a Instagram racial world, which is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I look really, really big. I miss toasted ravioli. Oh my goodness. Okay, if you're not gonna pick for me, Eric, I will pick. And I will pick some white tea, probably. If that's okay with you. All right. And what white tea should we have, Stephen? Like a white? Let's do some Indian white tea. Sajak? I do have Sajak. Let's do that. Sajak. So we're in here. You know, I think we can still hear ourselves through speakers in here. So if you do that,
I just turned it on and everything else.
Okay, cool. So bear with us as we try to figure out this whole YouTube situation. And there we go. I hope you're happy, Eric. So I haven't done a lot of practice with Sajak, and I'm interested to see what we should do with it. What kind of teaware does well with Sajak? I'm actually not sure if this is Sajak, but it's certainly Korean tea. This was given to me by our friend Chris, who is also an avid teaware collector, and his wife is Korean, so they have kind of like a connect going on. We don't know the details about this tea. I can't read any Korean whatsoever, but it's supposed to be really good. So let's crack it open. I didn't want to crack this open during the green tea drink down because I'm like, I already have so much green tea. What am I doing, you know? So yeah, let's get this started. I'm kind of nervous. So you say a teapot. Can I use a Japanese teapot for this? Let's try it out. If you don't let me know what I should brew this in, I'll probably use a Japanese teapot. It's kind of a fallacy to assume that Korean teas are just like Japanese teas, but maybe it'll work out okay. No raw clay. Wait, so I need to use can I use a Gaiwan? I don't have a non-raw clay teapot. So this one here, this is unglazed on the inside. So it's not super porous, but it's pretty, you know. No, he says it has to be no raw clay. So let's just try it in the Korean teapot. We haven't tested this teapot with a lot of Korean green teas yet. For now, this teapot is by a Korean potter, but we've been using it for white tea so far. So maybe this should work. But just because it's Korean doesn't mean it always does well with Korean teas. It's something we've learned with, you know, even Japanese teapots. We have Japanese teapots that just don't do well with Japanese teas. So we shall see. let's first check out the leaf. So just like you, this is my first time brewing this tea. So I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. Let's check this baby out. And maybe you can let me know what kind of Korean green tea it is by the look of it, Eric. Resident Korean tea expert. And yeah, the purpose of going onto YouTube Live is to just kind of make it a little bit easier for us to do tea practice together. As much as I like talking at Instagram and stuff, I'd rather that we have people actually having their hands on some tea or some toasted ravioli, in your case. And I feel like it's going to be easier for us to hang out for a little bit longer period of time through YouTube, if you so choose, because, you know, I love being on Instagram. I love hopping into other Instagram lives, but I always have to have my phone like on the side. And I'm like, man, if I could just have my friend on my browser, on my computer, it'd be a lot easier for me to just keep them on the entire time. And I do it for hours. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. All right, here's tea. So again, this is a Korean tea I have never had before. I mean, I'm assuming it's a sejak just because it's the most likely thing for it to be. Leaves look pretty even, wiry. So, you know, a lot of people ask what are Korean teas like because most of us are used to both Chinese and Japanese green teas. Simple answer is, you know, somewhere in the middle, but it's not the most accurate answer. I find that Korean green teas are a little bit more similar to Chinese green teas, but with a little bit more of that kind of savory quality you get from Japanese green teas. And then the tell for me when something's Korean, it seems to have a more kind of grainy character to it, like hay or buckwheat, something like that. It's a little bit toastier. And from what I understand, a lot of the Korean green teas are processed at a faster but hotter temperature, if that's correct. Of course, it depends on the green tea. And Korean green tea is one of my, like, I don't really know much about it, but that's what I've heard. And so I'm going to try to brew it with that in mind. I don't know this tea very well, so I'm not going to use boiling water on it. Usually, I tend to use, you know, boiling water for most of the green teas that I drink. But I don't know about this tea. So let's drop the temperature down a little bit when we try this together. And then let me know what you guys are having on this lovely afternoon indoors. I can't complain. So let's cool this down. Oh, I didn't preheat my teapot. What am I doing? I didn't preheat my teapot. Okay, I make mistakes a lot. So these guys are like, they're already on the amusement ride. Like they're on like the roller coaster already. And then the staff's like, no guys, hold on. Vacate, hold on. We're not ready to let you on the ride yet. Yeah. I'm just gonna do a really quick swish of boiling water with some of the leaves inside. Sometimes you make mistakes. Yes, there are leaves inside. I'm gonna dump them out really quick. Preheat. I want to smell what the dry leaf is like. I know this is a mess, but improvise, adapt, overcome. And I want to get this dry leaf smell, which is my favorite thing to do with any tea session. So I'm willing to ruin it a little bit to get the smell up. Ooh, okay. It smells really good. So again, I'm not used to Korean green tea, so I'm really, you know, how do I describe this? It's like I was saying, it's got more of that kind of warm, grainy, like, you know, stack of hay thing going on that a lot of Chinese and Japanese green teas don't have. It's very warm. I dig it. Okay. So Eric says a very traditional way to steep is to bring the water down to 100 TF or so. Too cold for me and doesn't bring out everything. So yeah, I tend to use pretty hot water. So I'm going to use this off the boiled water, toss it back in, and I'm just going to cool this down a little bit. And again, I've never really done a lot of Korean green tea in this pot, even if it is Korean. So it remains to be seen how well it does. We shall see. And I want a little stand for this. I'm feeling like my tea session's a little empty. Again, we came in without having a theme, so I didn't know what to put on my tea table yet. But now I would like to get us set up better. Yeah, that feels better. Cool. And then I don't know how long to brew this for. You know, I used to time all of my infusions and stuff, but now I don't. So, yeah, I feel like it's getting close, but we'll see. Adrian Luna, I just had High Mountain green tea with my new Gaiwan. Congratulations on the new Gaiwan. I like pots. I like collecting teaware of any kind, but my tea life, I like to say it's divided into before Gaiwan and after Gaiwan, so BG and AG. And before Gaiwan was like everything lovely, which is so fun, like Earl Grey and Tivana and white Ayurvedic chai and all that stuff, which was great. But then, like after you get a Gaiwan, it's like the whole world. I'm not sure if this is your first one, but whenever I get a new Gaiwan, it still makes me pretty happy. Okay, this should be about good. And then this teapot, I'm still trying to figure out how to handle it best. It's a little bit slippery. It's a little bit odd to handle, but over the last couple years or so, I've been trying to accept my teaware for what it is, if that makes sense. Like I used to be so focused on what teaware was going to be perfect for me, right size for me, light, easy to use, not too heavy. And that worked really well for me for a long time as I became more confident with just brewing tea. But nowadays, I'm more willing to kind of like adjust to the teapot, even if it's not my style or even if it's not made for me perfectly. It's like almost like a challenge. Like, how am I going to be able to use this thing? So this makes me want to bust out our paper thin pot today, Stephen.
Ooh.
I'm kind of feeling it. Eric, remember that paper thin pot? Yeah, it is. It's here actually.
Of course it's here.
Yeah, we got the most amazing paper thin pot when we were in Taiwan in the fall. We might have to use that today. But later, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay. And then yesterday we were doing a lot of cup comparisons and teaware comparisons. So I'm kind of like on that ball right now. Stephen, yours is over here.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to test this out with 3 different cups. Well, 2. One's for Stephen. He doesn't care. He just likes his cup. Okay. And then we got our little dump bucket over here. Ooh, I need to heat this water. I'm always guilty of dumping hot water into something, preheating it, and then not checking how hot it actually is. Okay. Yeah, again, I've never had this tea, so we're excited to see how it goes. Eric, do you think this is a Sajak? From the look of the leaves that you saw earlier? I'm kind of curious. Look at the liquor. The liquor isn't the most brilliant liquor there is, so you can kind of tell the quality of the tea a lot by how brilliant and transparent it is. It's not that clear. It's not that cloudy. It's somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure if that's typical for Korean green. But it's not the best looking liquor. Just could be something, different about Korean green teas or this producer. And then just on video, it looks a little bit greener in person than it does on video, but it's still not brilliant green. Let's try it out. Adrian, if you're still hanging out with us, what kind of High Mountain green tea was that you're having? Tasty. It's kind of hard for me to describe because when I when I'm dealing with tea I don't know very well, I'm like, where do I put this? You know, if it's a Japanese green or a Taiwanese oolong or, you know, even a pu'er or something, I can kind of describe it okay because I am used to, you know, drinking that tea a lot. But with Korean green, I'm like, it's pretty good. You know, it's not the best Korean green tea I've ever had in my life. It's not the worst Korean green tea I've ever had in my life. Yeah, it's good. Sometimes I don't like being challenged by teas like this. I'm like, I want to know what you're about. Are you good? Are you bad? Yeah, I think the flavor is a little bit thin for me. It's not as rich as I'd like it to be. Yeah, let's see how it goes over the next couple of steeps. And let's see how it performs in the 2 cups rather than just 1 cup over here. Ooh, that one. So this is a wood-fired cup here, and this is a porcelain cup. Very, very cheap cup over here. This is a, you know, handmade, wood-fired, expensive, like the works. But this cup is just so solid, nice and standard. It actually does really well. And this one pulls a little bit more dryness and astringency out, but also a little bit more sweetness. So you kind of like, you know, taking some, losing some. I'm not sure which one I like better. I might, so far I think I like this cup better for this tea. Adrian, I'm not sure how the label doesn't specify. It just says organic Chinese green, classic rich green. Okay. I know, they like to be very useful, very informative. Eric, my most favorite Korean green tea had a sort of pineapple taste. You know, I actually get a pineapple taste from this too. It's kind of like that drying pineapple thing you got going on, but not as bad. You know, it's really not too bad. I like it a lot. Now that you mention it, it's less of the pineapple flavor and more of the pineapple feeling, if that makes sense. So now that you say it, I'm appreciating this tea a lot more. Like, I don't have the context to understand what's good about a Korean green tea yet. Like when you say, hey, Ree, you know, can you evaluate this Taiwan oolong? I'm like, yeah, I got it. You know, I'll figure it out. I more or less, you know, can tell how good it is. Not 100%, you know, I'm not the god of Taiwanese tea by any means, but I'm comfortable with it. So here I'm just like, I don't know how to quantify this tea. You know, I almost wish I had the ability to just enjoy tea sometimes. I always enjoy tea, but just like close my eyes and whatever it is what it is. But I'm just, you know, too thinky. Yeah, this one is definitely more on the texture and just overall like characteristics for sure. Yeah, it's not wowing me. It's pretty good. It's you know, more on the kind of sexy side of tea. Like it's very flavorful. It's got lots of aroma, but there's not as much of the kind of long aftertaste that I'd like to see. I'm waiting for it to kick in. It's not that complex. I'm just like, I'm already bored a little bit, but we'll see. This is the first steep, so we'll see. And again, when it comes to this kind of tea, I don't know if I'm dealing with a really good tea or not. So we gotta keep going. Tyler, how's it going from the other side of Vegas? We're having a mysterious Korean green tea from our friend Chris from Tea and Whisk. His wife has a connect to some Korean growers over there, so that's what we're drinking right now. I should probably have a batch of it to show you guys, just so that you can take a look when you pop in. And Eric, you can kind of help me decode this tea. Make sure you put down your toasted ravioli and actually look this time, so I'm not going to show you again. Does it warm your body at all? Nothing's happening. I'm like just you know. And what Eric's talking about is tea is not just flavor, the aroma, the texture, the aftertaste. Those are the, you know, the four things that go on. The four things that go on. The four things that go on. But there's also the feeling you get from the tea, whether it's the mood that you get or an actual bodily sensation you get from the tea. Then yeah, that's something I look for too. When a tea just hits me in a good way, it signals to me that this tea is pretty good, at least in my experience. And then if it hits you like you're, you know, I've had teas that have made me feel like someone just shot me. I've never been shot before, but in my, you know, sheltered, never been shot world, it's kind of the closest I've ever felt to feeling like I've been shot. And it's yeah, a lot of those teas are like really, really, really unusual danky pours that I have no idea where it came from. Yeah, and the person brewing it for me was also very intense, and so the entire, yeah, I just felt like it was like a shoot and run, you know? What do you call those? Like it was like a drive-by. You literally take one sip, and you're like, oh my god, I cannot. I'm sorry. And this almost never happens to me, but it's happened before. It's like a 1 in a 1,000 kind of tea that I've come across. So to answer your question, Eric, no, it doesn't make me feel much. To be fair, when I am, you know, sharing tea on stream, it's a little bit more difficult to isolate the feeling, you know, but when it comes to really, really good teas, you guys have sometimes seen us on Instagram Live. You know, I get pretty like chilled out. I almost wish sometimes we had like a speed time lapse of the entire session. You can see me start here, and then I start here, and then I go back, and then I go depending on the tea. Depending on the tea. Yeah, Stephen, you haven't even had any of this. It's certainly not relaxing, let me tell you that. I'm still like jittery, but it's not bad. It's not bad so far. I really enjoy the flavor of it. Tyler, working from home and am distracted, so I figured I'd join. It is delicious. Wish you could have some. I'm glad that we have the ability to share tea from not too far away, but far away enough. I think this is a kind of tea you'd really enjoy, actually, just in terms of the flavor profile. It's very, very tasty. I'm just looking for a little bit more. And it's one of those teas that I wish I hadn't had better Korean green tea, because then I really, really, really appreciate this. But once you had like the stuff, you're like, oh, I'm just waiting for the stuff. I'm just waiting for that really, really good tea again. So to condense all of that chatter down, I would put it at like a 6 out of 10 right now, you know? Yeah, like a 6 out of 10. 6.5, you know, we'll see. Steven, what do you think about this?
It's out.
Ooh, and then I'm doing this thing where I'm removing my lid again. Eric, you were there for Hangout yesterday at Discord. We did this 2-hour like lid on, lid off experiment with green oolong, which we'd done before with pu'er. Does the leaving of the lid on or off or cracked a little bit between infusions change the flavor profile of the tea? And the first time we did it with pu'er, and it did. And apparently it's better if you leave the lid on the entire time. And then some people were like, oh, Ree, you totally forgot the one in the middle, which is you sometimes leave the lid cracked in between sessions. So it's not fully on, it's not fully off in between sessions, it's just cracked. So I wanted to try it one more time, at least, because, you know, number one, show pu'er is only one kind of tea. What if the result is different for another kind of tea? And number two, we didn't do the lid cracked option. So we had 4 setups lined up, one with the lid on the whole time, one with the lid cracked in between infusions, and one with the lid off in between infusions. And the last one with no lid at all during the entire session. And the best ones were lid on the whole time and lid off the whole time, which as you can see from my habit, I habitually remove my lid off. I've always done it. I heard it once a long time ago that, if you leave the lid on, the leaves will steam, they'll get bitter, they'll taste like overcooked vegetables. And, I'd smelled that before in some green teas, So I decided, oh, yeah, you should leave the lid off and stuff. But so far, at least in the grand total of 2 experiments we've done with it, we have seen that leaving the lid on is better. Or just don't put a lid at all, kind of like bowl brewing. And what I think that is, tea just likes consistency, It doesn't want to be like, we're hot, we're cold, we're hot, we're cold. So in leaving the lid off right now, I'm cooling it down. So I don't know, dude. I'm kind of sad. Okay, so next infusion. The first infusion we did like a swig of boiling water to warm it up, toss it back in. It was kind of weird. Second infusion, what do we want to do with it? Again, this is a tea I don't know very well, so I'm not that confident brewing it. What should we do? First, let's put the lid on. Since we learned that seems like it's better, we still need to test it for green tea. And of all the types of tea, I think green tea will be the most sensitive to lid on, lid off kind of shenanigans. But yesterday we did green oolong, and it was pretty green, and nothing happened. So, I think in theory I'll just keep the lid on from now on. But I'm gonna miss that like ritualistic kind of like that extra step. Which I really like doing. Yeah, okay. So let us indeed try hotter water last time. So let's try boiling water, and we'll do a flash infusion. Now, I'm a believer in the whole boiling water is good for green tea that can handle it. Not all green teas, but I think this one is a pretty good quality green tea. It'll probably be able to take it. That's not to say you should do it for every single green tea. Depends on your taste, but I do like the taste of a good green tea that's been boiled or brewed at boiling. This is why I do it so much. And then let's pour that out really quick to see what happens. Cool beans. Try to make sure I get all the water out of there. And then let them kind of like steam up a little bit. See, with green tea, I'm just like, do I leave the lid on or not? But I guess I should, right? That feels really odd to me. It's just not what I do. Oh my goodness, makes me nervous. And then the color of it is also still kind of cloudy. It's not the best, like most clear liquor, but it's not bad. Smell. Ooh, that's kind of weird. It's like an odd, like really savory, almost like food smell. Like, I don't know. Like chicken. But like chicken while you're cooking it, not like fully cooked chicken. It's kind of odd. Like a raw flavor. Raw boiled flavor. That's odd. And again, Korean green tea, I don't know the classic tasting notes to assign. So I'm sure if I hear someone use like a definitive, like, this is typically what you taste in Korean green teas, I'd probably make the connect. But now that just smells like raw chicken. It's a weird association. Maybe it's just soy sauce because we like to marinate in soy sauce a lot, Steven. Tyler, have you ever experimented with boiling water and then cooling it down versus heating water to 170 if you aren't using boiling water for greens? Oh, you mean boil it first and then cool it down versus just go to 170. I have not. That is indeed interesting. I tend to like to boil water first and then go down just because it's faster Did I interpret that correct, Tyler? Um, yeah, I usually just like to boil it and then let it cool down because it's faster. And like you, I tend to be kind of distracted while I work anyway. So by the time I look at my kettle, I'm like, oh, perfect, it's 170. It's been 30 minutes. So yeah, that'd be interesting. I think what's going on there's a whole myth, or I don't know if it's true or not, but the dissolved oxygen in the water, differs, or there's some kind of like energy that comes out in the water when you boil it, or it loses the energy when it boils. There's so many different things that people say. I haven't put my own test on it yet because my friend Tony from World of Tea, he's the author of Tea, a User's Guide. He's really dope. He's pretty smart. And he published an article like years ago that said, nah, it doesn't make a difference. So I'm like, nah, it doesn't make a difference. But I should test it. Because, of course, everyone's parameters, experiments will be different. He might be tasting something different from me. But that's how I shelved it. I'm like, this is the Tony Gabley approved shelf, or, already tested shelf. Yeah, but we should pull it out, and Tony's the kind of person who will not mind if we pull it out to try to make our own conclusions. Should be interesting. We should try it out. We can try it out like today, actually. Why don't we do that? No better time than now, right? We don't have anything planned. So I tried my best to not have anything planned because I always have something planned. And, I don't want to, I get bored of myself sometimes. Eric, I started steeping cold some Korean summer green tea. I like summer green tea from Korea. I like the price. Korean green teas tend to be pretty pricey. Well worth it though for the higher end teas that I've had. And then some of the summer ones are extremely cheap, very affordable, almost like a sencha or less. So I dig that, summer green tea from Korea. And even just summer green tea in general, as long as you're not expecting the like springtime and flowers and it's the most complex thing in the world. It's basic, it's good, it's affordable, it'll make you happy. I like summer green tea, Okay, second steep of this baby. Steven.
Hey.
Hi. I put Steven there because I don't want to, be the only one tasting, because sometimes my conclusions are different from his on the same teas. So let's see. This is almost like flash steeped. I'm a little bit disappointed by how much flavor we pulled from it. I feel like it could have gone a little bit longer, It's a little thin, and then it's already getting a little bit dry. So something about this tea is not enjoying either me or the pot or the water. We're just not best friends right now. Of course, I don't usually brew Korean green, so maybe I just gotta focus more. Or sometimes it's not you, it's the tea. So we'll have to see. Angry Keeper, thanks for the teacup. I will make it happen in real life too with a wooden coaster. Here, like this. we got quarantine. We have nothing to do. We're good. What are you drinking and joining us with this morning, afternoon, evening? Who knows? Doesn't matter. We're on quarantine. Eric, I'm not steeping it hot because I just don't want to start up my kettle. Too lazy. More props to you. Yeah, I have just started enjoying cold steeping more. I've always liked ice brewing, but cold brewing is kind of like new territory for me. How are you cold steeping it? You, Alex, eating ice cream. Steve, that sounds really good right now. Ice cream. Okay. So yeah, I'm not. It's okay. I almost want to do this tea again to see if we could get something more interesting to come out of it. And yeah, we have this kind of tea culture in the West that Steven's like, we should try this pot here for it. You know, try as many samples as possible. If you don't like the tea the first time, you probably just don't like it. Or just a couple times. I mean, I often order tiny samples at a time. So I only give a tea maybe a try or 2 or 3 at most to see if I like it. And then if I don't like it, it's just over. But then I've learned from Floating Leaves, Shoan and Noah, they will like sit with a tea and brew it over and over and over again over the course of like weeks, trying to pull out like a one flavor note they got from it one time. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a lot of patience. But it kind of got me thinking, I'm like, why don't I do that? What if imagine all the teas I've had that I just didn't have the right water, or I just didn't brew it quite right. I mean, remember that I didn't start this out very well on the Kyushu. So maybe it's just my fault. You know, it's not the tea's fault. I'm kind of like a little angry at the tea for not being that amazing, but maybe it's my fault. So let's try one more steep with this baby before we move on to a different piece of teaware with the same tea. I think I want to double down on it, if that's okay with you guys. And then maybe we'll try the boiling water and then cooling it down versus heating water with the same tea after we do this, so that, you know, we'll have gotten some comfort with this tea by the time we do the experiment. I kind of want to clean my kettle out though before I do that. Make sure that all the minerals are kind of like, no, it's pretty clean. We'll be good. We'll be good. Smells pretty good. The leaves look really pretty, you know. Just wanting more from this tea. We'll see. You can tell how much I like a tea by how fast I drink it too. If I'm just chugging. See, I'm just like, oh, there's more. Here, Steven, you can help me finish it. I'm not trying to be ungrateful for the tea. I'm just like, more. I want better. We have a chance to do that. So, you know, I don't like how it's performing at boiling, so I'm gonna dial it back. Even with that flash tea boiling, a bit of astringency came out, a little bit of sourness. It kind of rebelled a bit, so I'm gonna cool it down at least a little bit, and then I want it to go a little bit further and longer because the bitterness is telling me I went too high and hot. The bitterness, astringency, too high and hot, but then the flavor is weak, so then I don't think it's steeped long enough. So we'll try it out. Steven, agree with what we're experiencing? It's like angry. It like slammed the door, so it's not there, but it's still angry. We'll try to work with it. Alex from Angry Keeper, I want some Wild Mountain White. We haven't cracked into our Wild Mountain White in a hot minute. I don't know why. When Steven knows, we can get more of it. Yeah, Tyler asked a question. I think it was Tyler. Yeah, it was Tyler. What tea would you drink or choose to drink if you were only limited to one tea over like 2 weeks? You could also like spin it as if you could only drink one tea if you're stranded on a deserted island, what tea would you pick? And Steven was like, Wild Mountain White is so good. You only need a couple of grams of it. It'd probably keep you through the entire 2 weeks. It's not just the quantity, you know, like I think Tyler's question was, what tea do you love so much you won't get sick of it? And maybe there's an ease of brewing, you know, you don't gotta like work with it too much. But that Wild Mountain White that Alex is talking about is just so, it's just so generous and sweet. And unlike many of the really high-end teas, it doesn't demand, oh, I just noticed, lids off, the habit. It doesn't demand too much finesse in the brewing. You can just chuck it in a bowl, you can boil it, you can not boil it, you can use okay water, you can use good water. You're just like, good, good, good. It's like it's playing like DDR and it's like perfect, 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 like all the time. So I kind of like it. I like, as high maintenance as my tea practice is, I really like low maintenance teas that you can just boil the fuck out of and just enjoy. And that's a tea. Yeah, for sure. We got some. Alex says Christine wants to drink some of the mountain streams that came in, so probably drink some soon. Yeah, I also want to drink some of those after we ascertain that both me and Steven are not gonna give you guys the plague. I think we're fine. You know, I've been kind of sniffly and sneezy, which means, right, like it's not a symptom if you have a runny nose. So whenever I sneeze, I'm like, no COVID. But that's, I don't know, just to be safe. Supposedly a lot of people our age, 20 to 29, 30 to 39 are symptomatic. So I'm just worried I'm a carrier without knowing it. It could have been anyone. It could have been that guy at the takeout place that handed me our takeout order and he had COVID and he touched the chopsticks and stuff. I mean, it's not super likely, but who knows, right? There's that whole like patient 31 thing they're talking about in South Korea where 30 people of the first, few cases were totally good, didn't violate quarantine, and then number 31 was like, I'm a special snowflake. Let me go out into the world and spread my love. And he or she did. And then it was responsible for like 80% of the new cases or something like that.
Is that Italy or South Korea?
That's South Korea, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. So the power of exponential growth, I guess. And yeah, it just kind of freaks me out. I don't want to be that person. Especially since I kind of flitter around a lot of different social groups. So, and when I hear about like super spreaders, it's like, oh, this person went here, here, and then here. I'm like, oh God, that could be me. So forget about it. Yeah. Okay, no. Leave the lid on, dude. Caught myself. Tyler, where is Wild Mountain White from? Wild Mountain White is from Fujian. It's a gongmei, which means it's got buds, but most of the leaf material is this like big, kind of like old looking leaf. For pu'er drinkers out there, the closest you can compare gongmei material to is probably huangpian. It's like that kind of like sorted out stuff usually, like the lower elevation. The lower leaves in the bush, and they're not as like complex as the tips. Tips are more potent, more punchy, more complex. They're also more like sharp. And then the lower you go in the bush, typically the more sweet and kind of mellow and kind of friendly the leaf material tends to be, but also kind of boring. What makes that Wild Mountain White special is that it's from a tea farm that's been abandoned for the last 40 years. And so it's just kind of like, been lost to, not lost, I don't want to be all like mystical and stuff. It's been hanging out, becoming more wild. And so there's like a microbiotic thing going on with that white tea that kind of reminds me of a heicha almost. And it's very complex, even for being like, the material's not that special looking. If you look at it, you're like, what the hell is this stuff? It's all crappy looking, but that's a tea that really taught me if the leaves don't look good, better off you just close your eyes and just drink, because even the crappiest looking tea can look really good. Yeah. Yeah, so Eric, you have definitely had this tea. We've had some crazy sessions with that tea. We've had some amazing ones. We've had some good everyday ones. It's just, again, no matter where you put it, it's perfect. It's just good whenever. Sometimes I'll even toss it in like a mug and just mug brew it. I'll brew it using crappy water. It doesn't freaking matter. I bring it with me when I have a long layover at an airport. And even like the Asian airports, they have hot water, which is amazing, but it's not the most amazing water in the world. You don't want to be waiting until you're at Xiamen Airport to brew like, your very expensive $5 a gram Dragon Ball or whatever. But that tea just stands up, which is great. Yeah. See, I feel bad because it's like I have a friend with me who's spending time with us, this wonderful Korean green tea, and I'm just like fantasizing about someone else. Okay. Let's work with this tea. Yeah, it's I'm trying to work with the tea, but this is definitely a better steep. It enjoys a little bit of the cooler water. I don't think this is a tea that can handle hot water, which to me is a little bit of an orange flag because I find that even with sencha or even gyokuro or matcha, really, really good examples of those green teas can take boiling water. This one, it's kind of needing some babying a little bit. So I'm gonna say it's, pretty like above average, but not super stellar, at least not in the processing. But we'll hit it one more time with a different pot. We'll use the paper thin pot from Taiwan to try out. This is a better steep though. Maybe Steven will agree with me. Here's my double checker, my fact check. So I'm not listening to myself all day. A better steep, I think. It's sweet, it's got some freshness to it, it's got kind of like a green bean kind of thing going on, a little bit of warmth. It doesn't feel bad, but it kind of just stays as a flavor. It's not like it doesn't take over or anything. So we'll try it out. I think should we do one more steep on this, or should we move on to a different brewing style, different teaware? Hmm. How about we try to brew it one more time? I want to see if it just disappears completely or if it gives us one more steep. Yeah, we want to measure how generous the leaves are, I would say. Eric wants us to move on. So we will brew while getting this set up. How's that? We'll meet in the middle. Oh, and there's no aftertaste for this tea. There's just a tiny bit of like aroma that goes on the palate, but nothing that echoes through and comes back to you. Like there's no huigan, there's no hoyin, that kind of like fancy Chinese like aftertasty fancy thing you get from good tea. None of that. So yeah, I'll give it one more chance. I don't wanna sound like I'm policing the tea, but I'm just not feeling it. It's certainly beautiful. Okay. Let's try this out one more time and then we'll move on to a different teapot. Different brewing style. I'll try to focus a little bit better this time. At least now I know how to approach it. I don't think it wants boiling water. We definitely need to drop the temperature. I think the water is okay for it. We have relatively light water here. It's not perfectly formulated for green tea. If some of you aren't on the water formula train yet, we have a water formula that we use because our Vegas water sucks like a lot. And I can actually change the formula of the water based on what tea we're brewing. And this is just standard kind of like water formula we use every single day. During the green tea drink down, I actually made the water lighter to account for all the green tea we'd be drinking. So this water is a little bit heavier than I want it to be for green tea, but not bad. Okay. Looking for an aftertaste. I'm looking for some inspiration from this tea, man. Still looking, still waiting. All right. We'll see. And then I'll show you the leaves later on. Okay. Need a refill. Questions, concerns, comments about my really nice polka dotted pajamas. They're from Target, as are most of my clothes. Target's great. I tend to wear a lot of blue, maroon, gray, and they just got me, like I don't really want a mustard yellow dress. Like I just want 11 bazillion of the same navy blue. That'd be great. I could live like that forever. So our friend Eric really, really likes Korean green. Has anyone else had any Korean green teas? experiences brewing them. Thoughts on Korean green teas? They're one of probably the green tea category I'm very not familiar with. I'd actually say I'm even more familiar with like Indian and Nepalese green teas than Korean green teas. So I got um a lot of space to cover in trying to get to know them. But what I've had, I really, really like. So, you know, just gotta figure it out. And this teapot is not what I usually use for green tea, so maybe it's just the pot, you know? Pot can really make or break the session. Here you go, last brew of this baby, our mysterious Korean green tea that we've had. Yeah, curly. It looks like it's pan fired. It's got the shaping of a pan fired tea, kind of like more like Chinese style instead of like the sencha, like full needles that they steam and press and stuff. So I think this is fired, like with a wok or whatever. What do you think, Eric? Resident Korean tea master. And it's got the darker color too, that's reminiscent of a lot of pan-fired greens. And then the darker, more dull color also tells me the temperature they used was a little bit higher. You might have seen this with teas like Liuan Guapian, Melanxin, Liuanguapin, Liuan Guapian. I don't speak Chinese, but I can speak tea a little bit. You have that same kind of dark color going on from the higher temperature. Just from what I've seen. But I don't know. I haven't processed a lot of green tea, so that's just my guess. Eric, from what I can see, looks Sejak. Yeah, I think it is Sejak. It's kind of easiest thing to guess, most common, right? It doesn't look like anything else. Doesn't look too fancy. Doesn't look too beat up. I think it's Sejak. We do need to do a focus session of Korean greens. I would love that. Like, I would really love that. I haven't done a deep dive of a tea category in a long time, which we will be doing with the latest challenge coming up. A tea that I'm not usually, focusing on. So I'm excited about that coming up and nervous. I spent a lot of time, floating in my ocean of Taiwanese oolong, just leisurely basking in the sun of happiness. It's time to go to some challenging waters, I think. It's good to mix it up a little bit. Tyler, I haven't had any Korean green teas or Korean teas, he says. I took a quick look and they seem expensive. Yeah, they tend to be a little bit more expensive on average than the equivalent grades of a Japanese or Chinese. But I've seen some that they just seem like they seem good for the price. You drink some really good teas. I would just say go for the better. You might not get as much tea for how much you're spending, but you're going to be more inspired by the tea to see what it's capable of. I find that a lot of green tea on the market is expensive, but also not very interesting. The vendor is just carrying it because it's Korean green tea, but just like any other origin, there's some mass-produced Korean green tea, some boring Korean green tea, and then there's like, wow, like they've been doing this forever and they really care about the farm and the tea and the skill and the craft, and it gets really good. So that's why I'm, even if I'm not used to brewing this style of tea, I know it could be better because I've had it. So mostly through Eric. So thank you, Eric. You just need a tea friend to like give you that push. With almost every tea I've encountered, there's no like, I don't like this tea. It's more of, I haven't found the level of this tea that is just really good yet. Which is not the best conclusion for the wallet, but it's the best conclusion for the heart. So it makes me happy. Eric Glass, most Korean tea is from Japanese bushes, not Chinese. That's something I didn't know. Do you know what kind of Japanese bushes they are in particular, Eric? Chinese bushes in Korea tend to be better. Right. Um, yeah. Let's move on. I'm gonna let this guy rest. I'm gonna see what the leaves. No, you know what? No. Change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. I do a lot. Okay, let's check this baby out. I want to see what the leaves look like. See what's going on. They're beautiful. They're really gorgeous. Like, you know, they're like expensive Chinese green tea level gorgeous, but they also look kind of cut up. Like Japanese green teas. They got some cut up things going on, or maybe it's just me. Yeah, let's take a look at them. So I'm doing this right now because I want to get any kind of data possible to help me with the next steep. I may or may not get some data for the next steep, but if I don't, oh well, it was fun. Leaves are warm. They're like nice and toasty. But if I do get something, you know, to learn about, I could maybe steep it better next time. So most of the leaves are pretty even in color. It's not perfectly even in color, but good, like nice and consistent. The color reminds me more of like a Chinese green tea than like that brilliant kind of like forest green, almost like fake looking green in Japanese green teas. Yeah, and then the leaves are pretty small. They're very nice sets, you know. You got your little like button leaf combo here, which is why, you know, it's not responding all that well with boiling water. If you have a green tea with a lot of tips like this, typically it better be a really friggin' kick-ass green tea to have both lots of tips and small leaves and also be able to take boiling water, because tips are the leaf material that usually, you know, will become bitter under boiling water, just from what I've experienced. And then there's some cut up bits. It's not perfect, and that's also where some of that dryness is coming from. So, for example, you got this cut up guy like this. You know, he was torn away from his leaf set, never to be reunited with him again. And then you got some leaves alone. You even got some tips alone that broke off, and that's going to be a big source of the dryness. So look at this guy here. The tip was torn off from the stem, and when I see that, I just tend to, you know, I'm like, what happened there? Like I guess the rolling wasn't perfect, shaping wasn't perfect, you know, or did they use machine cutting? I mean, this is pretty small leaf to use for machine cutting. I've never been to Korea, so I don't know, but a lot of the tea growing regions right now are starting to use more machine harvesting. So maybe that's why too. But it looks too nice to be machine harvested. Maybe still handpicked. I don't know. I'm just trying to guess. And how soft are they? Are they nice and soft and stuff? Yeah, they're gonna be soft. They kind of fall apart though. I kind of want a little bit more strength to them. I do this to kind of like just see what's going on with the level of processing. And so conclusion, I just know it's got some cut up stuff, so I gotta be a little bit careful with it. The cup. All right. Let's put that in there for later. I want to smell this guy later. Thanks for the tea session. So we're retiring the Korean green and the green pot for this session, and then we will use the paper thin pot from Taiwan. This guy is a whopping, I just want to tell you how much it weighs. It weighs 47 grams, which is insane. That's with no water in it. That's no leaves in it. 47 grams. So when you get like a 2-ounce packet of Taiwanese oolong, or just 2 ounces of any tea, you know, this teapot weighs less than your 2-ounce sample or 2-ounce packet. It's insane, and I always want to like treat it properly. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm live and I tend to be kind of like a little twitchy when I'm live compared to usual, I'm gonna switch out the slate tray, because Because if I drop this baby on that slate tray, it's not going to be a baby anymore. It's going to be pieces. And I'm just going to use something wooden. Something wooden. Yeah. I just want to be sure. I'm going to be careful anyway, but I just want to be sure. It's part of your tea design, you know. It doesn't look bad. It's just safer. Okay. Let's try the last brew of this while we preheat this guy. I haven't had a lot of experience brewing in this pot. What I've done with it so far, I really, 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 really like this pot. But I'm going to be careful when preheating it. And I'm going to pour some water into the fairness pitcher first before pouring the hot boiling water into the pot. Just so it's not so piping world-destroyingly hot. Okay. Look how thin this is. I mean, look at it. Wow, it's so thin. Wow. And then Severino, I think, is the one who told me to like. Oh, it's kind of hollow sound to it. It's not as high pitched as I thought it would be. I don't do this like pot thing. Ooh, it's high pitched, but not the most high pitched in the world. I don't know what the sound stuff does. I've seen a lot of people do it. I just don't like. Number one, I don't like scratchy sounds anyway. Like it's just the worst. So when even like I'm like washing dishes and like metal scrapes on metal or something, I'm just like I cannot. So this is not my favorite thing to do with any kind of teaware. But I'm open to trying it if someone told me to do it. Supposedly it has to do with like the quality of the material. You can tell how nice the pot is by how well pitched it is, but I've seen it also mostly used for Yixing teapots rather than Japanese or Taiwanese pots. So I'm not sure if you can extend that same logic with the Yixing pots or Chinese made pots to other regions. Yeah. Yeah. Look how thin it is. It's crazy. This is the pot that we picked up in Taiwan, and everyone was so scared to pick it up. We were just like, it's like a horror movie. Like, I don't want to drop it. And like, just set it immediately down. And I'm like, I want it. And I like this pot because it leaves no room for error. Like, if I just, it's well made, but it is very thin. So if I just knock it against something, it's probably going to shatter. But I like that it makes me focus, and it makes tea extremely well. The pour is just gorgeous. So it's a really well-made pot. The clay is really good. Again, it's Taiwanese. I believe they're using, I think they use Taiwanese clay in this case. I forget though. I'm starting to mix up my Taiwanese potter friends. Some of them use Japanese clay, some of them use American clay. Actually, I think that they might use Japanese clay. Yeah, I think this is Japanese clay. I need to double check, but
It's just not tokonami, or is it?
I'm not sure if it's tokonami, but in
Japanese.
Taiwan, they tend to like to use Japanese clay for making things a little bit tighter. Just something about the clay formulation in Japan, they are able to make really, really like thin and like more delicate pieces compared to like the really, really OG like Taiwan pieces. Where's like an OG? Yeah, here we go. This here is Taiwan clay. And not all clay from Taiwan will be like this, but you can see just how thick with a C it is. They're like polar opposites, more or less. Like this is heavy, you know? It's like a rock. It also feels like a rock. It's really heavy. The walls are extremely thick, you know? So yeah, it's just a little bit different. This guy is very thin and it's very hot. So yeah. Okay, I was babbling. Eric, I regret not getting it. Thanks for getting it. Glad someone got it. when you go back to Taiwan, maybe get me one if you see one. Okay, so Eric's talking about this guy because he saw us and also experienced the whole like, oh my god, this is horrifying. It's so thin. And then Angry Keeper, who was here earlier, his fiance Christine also picked one of these up, and they're not cheap, but why we're okay with that is they literally had to go through kiln after kiln after kiln of loading, making the pot and then loading it up and then opening the kiln, and then sometimes the entire like batch is shattered in the attempt to get it thin like this. Now question is, why make it thin like that? Well, it's like, I mean, why do anything? Like it's fun. They wanted to make it happen. And personally, I really dig it. So I thought it was worth it. It's pretty incredible to work with a pot that is just this light. It's like nothing. It feels like nothing. It's just so, it's got so much finesse. I really enjoy it. This is not what I want to break on YouTube Live ever, but if it does, at least Steven can repair it. The nervous look. Okay, cool. And then yeah, Lause, Zhuang Lause, he's the maker of this pot. He also does wood fire stuff. So, it's kind of interesting to see the level of, diversity and what's the word for it? He can do a lot of stuff, which is pretty cool. Okay, cool beans. This is throwing back the last sip of that. It did give us some, but what it is just kind of tastes like bitter gourd. Oh, bitter gourd. I don't like bitter gourd. If you have an Asian friend somewhere, you tell them bitter gourd, they're like, that's like our Brussels sprouts growing up. So, ugh. Now that I've thought about bitter gourd, I don't like that at all whatsoever. Okay, let's get the show on the road. So same tea, new pot, probably new brewing style. So at least this time I remembered to preheat the pot before putting the leaves in. So we're already winning. Improvements, Get these guys in here. I don't tend to weigh my leaves. That's actually a little bit more than I want inside that pot, but we'll work with it. I wish I used a little bit less. So because this is delicate tea, I think I want, whenever I fill a pot with a delicate tea, I want the layer of leaves inside the pot to be relatively even, so they're not crushing each other while they steep. So I'm gonna you can't really see it well. Here? No. Anyway, inside the pot, this is like the inside of the pot, it goes up like this, and there's kind of like a mound. I want it to be even. The more even it is, the better. Because if you have a mound, that little extra over here is going to start kind of weighing down the tiniest bit on the flat surface. And those leaves will steep just a tiny bit more than the ones that are even. They're tiny adjustments, but, see if it makes a difference for you. It certainly makes a difference for me. And that's why you have those pancake kind of like flat pots you see from Japan. It's to prevent the weight of like piled up leaves from like oversteeping each other. So yeah, okay. I'm going to start with a pretty cool temperature. I'll just use the water I used to preheat the pot, actually. And I'm going to, very gently pour it in. I know I can't get too much complexity out of this tea without it going bitter. So I'm going to try to change my approach up and try to pull maybe more of that warm, kind of like toasty thing going on while avoiding the bitter gourd. No. No. I don't want that. So we got 3 good steeps the first time, I would say. Yeah. Okay. So thin, so tiny. I think I want to, I'm going to err on the side of brewing it a little bit too light, just so I can work with it a little bit better. you can always pull back. You can always steep the tea a little bit more, but you can't steep it less, you know. So risking it being a little bit too light. I want to see how it's doing with this very first steep. We'll keep it short. See what happens. I will leave the lid on. See, this pot makes me focus. Okay. It really does make me focus. It's crazy. It's not the tea. The tea doesn't make me feel focused. Just handling this pot does. Okay. Let's smell. Ooh, I got that raw chicken thing going on again. Yo, what is that? That's so odd. Steven, I want you to smell this. And there's something like kind of like weird and like chickeny in there. It's like cooking. It's like food. Do you get that? It's like an odd note.
What was that in the other one?
Yeah, remember I noted it at one point. It's like the raw chicken note. It's almost like fish. So that's interesting. Is fish a typical tasting note for Korean greens? I don't know. Yeah, it's not
Okay.
fruity. It's not. It's like savory and like a, yeah, almost like wet dog. And I haven't pet my
I
dog
was
in a
gonna
little
say
bit.
wet dog.
Right, wet dog. Yeah. It's odd. Yeah. Like I very rarely use like animal notes in tea. They do it a lot in the wine world, like cat piss or whatever. I'm like, oh my god. But that's definitely like wet dog. I've only ever had this wet dog taste in like Sri Lankan white tea and some Yunnan like really weird like shang. So that's odd. Yeah. It doesn't sound good, no. Steven, you should try this. Thoughts? I'm not a fan of that taste.
Not a fan.
That's like the wet dog note unfortunately made it into the cup also. That's really weird. Yeah, that's odd. And I know it's not just the pot because I got that same note in the first pot too. It's the tea. That's weird. It's also like raw egg white. I think it's a chickeny thing I'm going, like I know the taste of raw egg white really well because I worked with it during the team mixology competition last year. And the reason why you use raw egg white is because, that kind of like fancy cocktail where you have a foam on the top. It's to reduce the bitterness of whatever you're formulating in the cocktail. So I used a raw egg white foam on top of a sencha. And the drink worked really well, to be honest. But then during the research and development stage, I just got sick of the raw egg white taste. I like eggs. I'm not afraid of raw eggs. I like putting raw egg in like, sukiyaki, like Japanese food, or like, over hot rice. I'm not afraid of raw egg, but yeah. If you want to be a little bit more hospitable to that tasting note, it kind of tastes like raw egg. Smells like raw egg. It's not my favorite. Let's give it another try. I'm like, should just mentally ping Shoen and Noah because they've fought for like certain teas. Like I think some of Mr. Lie's teas. Is it Mr. Lie's teas? They're like, oh, we saw it one time that, our brewing master was able to pull out a note from this tea. But whenever we've been brewing it, sometimes 2 weeks will pass and it's just beating us up. I'm like, I already feel beat up from like two sessions of this tea. It's not to say all teas are worth, exploring for 2 weeks straight. Maybe this just isn't the tea to do that with, but I just wanna, it might be my fault, it might not be the tea. So we'll try it again. Whew. That's the weirdest tea I've had in a while. I don't do well with like off notes in tea. What is going on, Steven? What is that? You get that weird note in the taste too. What is going on? Um, yeah, and so far this pot we've tested with oolong, white tea, green tea, specifically Japanese green, and black tea. And it's been okay. So, I don't think it's a pot that is just suddenly horrible. Maybe it's just not good with the Korean tea. But we also got that same kind of janky note from the Korean pot earlier. And they're very different pots. So I'm kind of inclined to blame the tea. And it's the same water I've been using, this whole time. And we've never had a dog note from it. And Bella's not here, so it's not Bella. Right? Odd. YOLO, I guess. Okay, now I don't want to mess around with this tea and I want to baby it and see if I drop the temperature. Just kill it with fire. I'm going to boil it to see if it can exercise that taste. Oh, we'll see. Just singe it out of there. Get it out. Get it out. Because I certainly didn't get that flavor when we brewed it really strong with boiling water the first steep. It happened in the second steep when we dropped the temperature, I think, if you guys remember. Whew. Whew. Okay. You're welcome. Now you don't gotta deal with wet dog tea, raw egg white tea, chicken marinating tea. It's a weird set of flavor notes. Raw egg white, wet dog, chicken marinating, and grass. At least it's very organic, right? And then the cup doesn't help either. The cups don't help. I'd say the wet dog's smell and note is worse than the wood fire, actually. Whew. Challenging. Very challenging. Oh, challenging. I wanted a chill tea session where I could relax and enjoy something nice. But I guess that's the tea world sometimes. It's you think you're gonna relax? Let's get some practice done. So this is definitely practice. Whew. Wow. I'm almost really wanting to do this tea again with a different pot. I know, Tyler, you wanted to test the temperature out, but this tea is just such an anomaly that even if we got a result from the 170 versus 200 experiment, I feel like I would still be, just getting egged on by the weird note, But I really want to do that experiment with the 170 degree water, getting the water up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit and then using that versus boiling the water and then allowing it to cool down to 170. So we'll definitely schedule that tea practice over the course of these few, because we do intend to do these every day until we get out of here. I figure if my nurse friends can be out there battling the forces of evil, if my, grocery store friends can be out there, being the forces of good in the face of evil, we can handle being live from home, drinking tea, practicing. So, and I always learn better when we have people if Stephen and I practice together really well, but having outside perspectives because, Stephen and I are very unapologetically Taiwanese oolong biased. We really like oolong. We really like white tea. We like the same thing. So it's nice to have other opinions going on. Like Eric, you were the one who set us off on this crazy Korean green tea journey today. I would have picked it. So I'm glad that you were here, right? Yeah. Okay, let's try it out. Yeah, we killed it with fire. Yes. No more wet dog smell. There's still some of that raw egg white smell in the aroma, but it doesn't taste like raw egg white or wet dog anymore. Thank goodness for that. More on the raw egg white, which is more bearable, sweet raw egg white. The previous steep was more like animal raw egg white, chickeny raw egg white. Ooh, scary. Temperature, man. Temperature is wow. yeah, so now I appreciate this tea more because it's not. See, it's funny. I'm like, I don't like this tea very much, and then it's okay. It's not inspiring. Oh my god, it's horrible. And then now that we've gotten it back up from horrible, I was like, this tea is okay. It's it's very friendly now. Wow. I wonder if it's just punishing me for talking about other teas while we're trying to brew it. You know, horrible, horrible. Okay. Yeah, that's nice and sweet and stuff. Steven's making some funny faces over there. Steven, what's going on with you? Does he not agree with you? No?
Not really.
Okay, so that's interesting. Uh, this tea feels a little bit more warm. So Eric asked earlier, does this tea make you feel warm? I do feel a little bit more warm now. I tend to run pretty cold, and I like to use this as a barometer. Haha, barometer. For tea and its effects in the body because I can't control my temperature. Like I'm not, like meditation master who can like change my body temperature or my heartbeat just by the power of my mind. But I tend to run cold. So there are certain teas I know will make me really cold and certain teas that I know will make me really warm. And so with people experiencing tea quote unquote energy or warmth feeling, body feeling, whatever for the first time, whatever it is. I have them touch my hands, and they're usually quite, a little bit cool, not cold. And depending on what I drink next, there are teas that can make me feel ice cold in the hands or really warm. And right now I'm really warm, which is not typical. So it's not a bad feeling. It's just that raw egg thing going on is not the most fantastic or appealing. So it's kind of scary. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad though. Okay, so the one downside is that by pulling the temperature up, we also got more astringency. So this tea is just very temperamental, unfortunately. I wonder if I have another green tea, Korean green tea I can mess with. I'm trying Steven's Cup. Steven's Cup's the best tasting actually out of all of those. It eliminates the raw egg smell the best. Whew. Yeah, I feel like my cheeks are getting warm too. It's pretty hot. Whew. Which is nice. I actually like tea that makes me feel warm. Wow. I feel like this tea is beating me up a little bit. It's a little too warm, it's a little too challenging. I don't know what to do with it. Let's push on and keep trying to work with it. Whew. Wow. Maybe just too much green tea. I've eaten lunch. Okay, so far, I think I liked its performance better in the Korean made pot, which is again not necessarily made for green tea. I mean, maybe the pot are intended for green tea, but it tastes better with white tea in our opinion. It just performed better. This pot has done well with Japanese green. It's just not doing that well with this tea here. Whew, I don't know. Can I last another steep? I'm not sure. And sometimes I get chilled out because I feel good. But this tea is challenging. Gotta work it. Could still just be my fault. We'll see. Eric, I've had some good sessions with Mr. Lies Tea you're talking about. We haven't cracked into ours yet. We got a set of Mr. Lies tea from Floating Leaves in the fall, but we haven't brewed it yet because we just know we need to brew it with some focus. And that's my biggest, sometimes I have that whole like, I need to wait until the perfect time to brew it, which is why I got into the green tea, fiasco in the first place. I just waited for the perfect time to brew my green tea, and then 4 years passed, and then we're in 2020, new decade. I have teas from last decade, but with the Mr. Lies teas, we've been in no rush because we imagined they could probably wait for us. Not that I want them to wait, but yeah, could be okay to wait for a better time. They seem to be pretty temperamental and demanding attention. You can just see me slow down as I'm sinking into this tea, right? I'm pretty warm though. Steven, try it out. I'm pretty warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm warm, but almost uncomfortably warm. It's not my favorite kind of warm. I will push to do one more infusion of this tea in this teapot just to see what happens. I will, again, probably use a pretty high temperature because the first steep with a little bit too low temperature brought out all those weird notes. The second one burned them out of existence, but then also brought up some astringency. I guess there's some kind of sweet spot we can try to aim for there, but I'm honestly losing a little bit of my patience with this tea. Whew, okay. It's like fighting me a little bit. And if you encounter a tea like this, I try to work with it. I'm also the type to just be inclined to just give up, but it's interesting to see what may or may not be possible if you give it some time. And now, this is definitely a tea session I'll remember. I learn more from the challenging tea sessions, than the non-challenging tea sessions. Like good tea, look, teaches me a lot, but it's a bad tea that I'm just like, oh my god, remember that one time? Yeah. Eric, maybe the issue is you keep taking the lid off between steeps. I don't think so. I don't know. We saw that the lid on, lid off made a little bit of a difference. A significant difference, in my opinion, but I don't think the lid off, lid on is causing the raw egg taste, which is my problem. Yeah, weird stuff. It's not the most, Did you catch Ree's live stream and her wet dog Korean green tea? Or raw egg Korean green tea? And I'm trying to get people into Korean green teas, not out of them. So, please believe me in that I've had some incredible Korean greens, and that's why this one is almost a little bit like I don't want to. I'm trying to push myself to work with it more because I know what Korean green teas can do. It just might not be the one for me. Oh, Steven, thank you for water. We probably need some of this. Oh, it feels really, really good. Oh my goodness. Did you get some water too?
Yeah.
I was beating Steven up too. So it's not always the same teas will not beat up the same people. We have friends who can drink pu'er all day, every day, no problem. And then the moment you pour them like a oolong, you just send them to outer space. So yeah.
It didn't send me to outer space, it just made me feel bad.
Yeah. It's in the outer space of like the deep core of Earth's crust or whatever, like this one is challenging for sure. Alex, aka me. Oh, not me. Yes, and then there's a third person. The mysterious does not get affected by tea at all whatsoever, which is interesting. Yeah, praise be to you guys, because you can just drink whatever the hell you want and not be affected by it. I did not get into the session thinking I would be so. Wow, it's challenging. I almost wonder if it's just a more introverted tea. Maybe you should try drinking this later while we're trying to watch Hell's Kitchen, Steven.
Okay.
Maybe it's just a tea that wants me to shut up and just drink it. There's certainly those teas that work better with other people and other teas that work better when you're alone. And yeah, I can almost feel myself slowing down talking wise. I'm sure you can feel it too. My words per minute is pretty high usually. I think my words per minute is pretty low right now in comparison. I'm still getting that raw egg taste. I mean, yeah, I didn't see it coming when I smelled the tea. It's interesting. It's yeah. Wow. Yeah. Shiloh, it's nice to see you. I also am in a different world right now, apparently so. My friend Eric, who's here in chat, is my I guess you can say my mentor for Korean green teas, because I don't have any other mentors for Korean green tea, so by default. But he's really lovely and knows a lot about Korean greens for sure. Um, I just want to poke fun at him for leading me down this green tea today. You know, we're trying a mystery sejak. We don't know much about it. We don't even know if it's a sejak, but it seems to be a sejak, as confirmed by Eric. And yeah, I guess this session has turned into a little bit of like what happens when you brew a tea that you don't know that well. You not only do you not know the category that well, but you don't know the details of that tea all that well. And I don't have a pot that's dedicated to Korean green tea or that I know does well with Korean green tea. So just a lot of question marks in the air. And that's why I like to do the experiments. The fewer variables you're confused about, like what's this tea? What does it taste like? Where is it from? Is it better to use hot water or cold water? Type of water, minerality of the water, the cup, the pot, the pour, etc. The more you know about those variables, the less you're going to be confused. But here, I don't know what the tea is. I don't know much about Korean green tea. I don't know how to brew it. Just like so, it's a lot. Yeah. Uh, yeah. It's a lot. So we've been just brute forcing this a little bit. It feels like I'm brute forcing it. It's not a very easy tea session. Shiloh, I don't know if you've experienced that before, where you're just working with a tea that might be working against you a little bit. Maybe you have with ceramics. I can't help but always tie it back to ceramics talking to you. I haven't done a lot of ceramics work myself, but having taken a couple ceramics class, I'm just like working with the clay. It's almost like the clay has a life of its own, you know? And in this case, the tea almost has a life of its own where it's kind of fighting me a little bit. you know, doesn't mean I have to run the other way. I want to meet it in the middle. Yeah, learning from people like Sherwood and Noah at Floating Leaves and some really incredible other like just tea people. I keep seeing these themes happen over and over again from like independent sources too. So I'm like, she says that they've never met each other, but they both say the same thing. It sounds crazy, but okay, I guess we should just try it. And then it seems to manifest. So yeah. I'm ready to go on to the next tea, that's for sure. If we struggle when we exercise, why not struggle sometimes when we brew tea, right? Exercise that tea making technique and ability and endurance. And I can make tea, like I can make tea for long periods of time without tiring out, but I'm getting run down by just one tea. Shiloh says it's learning to work in tandem with the clay, directing it instead of forcing it. In that sense, ceramics is definitely like tea. Now that you say that, working in tandem with a tea, that's I think one of the things I'm the weakest at. I tend to think a lot about the tea. It's not. I don't want to call it a bad thing, right? It just is what it is. It's the kind of person I am. It's the kind of tea maker that I am. But then sometimes it makes me not that effective at brewing teas that just want to flow or whatever. We're getting into like the kind of esoteric stuff, but it seems like there are other people who seem to flow better with tea. So it makes me want Steven to make this tea next because even if we have very similar tastes, Steven tends to think about tea a little bit less than I do. Like you're not so like, oh, like what pour, what temperature, what's the TDS of the water? Like I can like even we do a lot of experiments on stream, and I do just kind of chill out when we're not doing experiments for sure. But I'm still always a little bit more on, and Steven can just he'll just brew tea, throw the water in it, and then it's good. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell is going on? So I wonder if he'd brew it better than me. What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to see, actually. Can you try brewing this tea
Okay.
together with me? We still have at least 20 minutes to the end of our
And what?
scheduled time. It's up to you, dude. It's your tea. It's your, yeah.
Where's the tea?
Tea's over here hiding behind your laptop. Dude.
Okay.
So I think hell will freeze over before Steven agrees to come over to this side of the camera, but he can brew from over there. Then I will try one more treatment. What? I will try one more treatment of this with something else that he doesn't choose to use. I will actually try using a Gaiwan. It's the one I know best. If this tea does not do well in a Gaiwan that I know really well, I know it's a tea. I have at least more confidence to know it's a tea. Yeah, okay. Retiring this guy to the side too. Ooh, I have never brewed the same tea this many times in a tea session, besides practicing for the Tea Masters Cup last year with the Jade Mountain, Isan Jade Mountain Dongkin 2018. It's a winter harvest oolong that I used for my, they call it Masters tea. I hate that they use the word like that, but it's cute, I guess. They let you choose a tea that you can present to the judges, and that tea, I felt I knew pretty well, and so I brewed a lot of it. We're gonna have to formulate some water soon too. Steven, I can live without rice, but I can't live without Tea Curious water formula water. Oh my goodness. So yeah, Eric, I have a question for you. Have you had any Sejak that has any off notes like this? And what do you think might be causing that off note to occur in the Sejak? If this off note does happen again with the Gaiwan, that's 3 strikes already. It's not the teaware. It's probably the tea. It could be my water, but we're used to our water, There must be some kind of processing issue with the tea to cause that to happen. I don't know. I'm not sure. A lot of processing problems happen in tea because of moisture, too much moisture in the leaves during processing, or sometimes they get burned. Yeah. So Eric says, I don't know about what causes it. I've had some odd notes from Osolek, so maybe it is processing. I don't think this is Osolek tea. It at least doesn't show the branding on it, but from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, Osolek is more of like a mass-produced kind of green tea versus the smaller scale, artisan quote unquote tea. And that's the kind of tea that I've fallen in love with from Korea through Eric. And when I have Osolek, I just don't like it as much. It's kind of boring. It's very expensive. It's like expensive, boring tea. So I don't dig that. Okay. I wanted to drink that, Steven. It's okay. No, don't give it back to me, Jesus. He tossed it out into the waste bowl and then wanted to give it back to me. It's not how it works, dude. I will also brew at the same time as you and see if I can get it to work a little bit better one last time, if that's okay with you. Steven stole all my stuff. Steven, if you want another... He's just doing whatever the hell he wants.
You told me to.
Yeah, well, I wanted to keep my fairness picture. That's all. It's okay. I got another one. Okay. Third attempt. Third attempt at this Korean green tea, which seems like a Sejak, but we don't know.
Why does it smell like wet dog?
Does it smell like wet dog in the bag too?
No.
Just in the Gaiwan. Hey, here, can you hand it to me? I'm gonna brew it one more time too. So we'll have Steven brew it, and then if Steven can't make it happen, he's pretty good at brewing. That doesn't smell as bad, Steven. That smells pretty sweet to me. Um, Eric says yes, and their higher end teas are mediocre compared, smaller, more artisan. Yeah, correct. I agree. So I don't know what you'd compare Osolok to. It's not quite Itoen or Yamamoto Yama for Japanese teas. You might have seen those brands in the grocery store. They're like really mass-produced Japanese teas. I don't think Korea's green tea industry is just that big enough to match up with those producers, but it's they're bigger companies. So, and then this is from yesterday. This is some mystery Fujian Heicha that I had. It's really good. I would really like to have some of that right now. Actually, we'll save it for later. It's got a little bit more juice to it, I think. All right. Steven's over there trying to make this happen. Shiloh's question, what kind of water are you using? We're using the Tea Curious water formula. TDS is around 180 to 120. So it's a little bit darker than we'd like green tea to be, but it's not hard water necessarily. It's relatively soft. So for the green tea drink down, I actually dialed back the concentration of the minerals to like 30. I think that light water does really well with green tea. Between like 0 is hard to accomplish, but 10 to 30, maybe max 50, depending too on what's in your water. It's just soft, Aquafina is an example of a water that's pretty low, and it does really well with green tea. And then once you even just jump into green oolong, I like to make it a little bit darker, harder water. So this is a little bit harder than we'd like, but it's not explaining why this tea is so janky. All right, this for me?
Yep.
So this is Steven's attempt. I don't want to call it an attempt. This is Steven's brew.
What?
Is it just me or does it taste like wet dog again? It does? Yeah. Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. So Steven, who is basically God come again to brew tea. I'm just kidding, Steven. He's just really good. I like
Give me
it.
that.
I like it when he brews tea better than he brews tea better than I do. Because then I don't have to brew tea for myself all the time. It still has a wet dog note. And Steven's using an unglazed porcelain gaiwan. So it's porcelain but not glazed. Shiloh, if you're still here, can you help explain how that happens? Like how can porcelain be unglazed? I think it's porcelain clay, so like kaolin is this, I think, the clay that's used for porcelain. So if I'm not mistaken, it's kaolin clay that hasn't been it doesn't have a glossy glaze on it. I don't know. So it's raw porcelain. And it's still making the tea taste kind of janky. So the first 2 that I did were also unglazed clays. That's unglazed clay. Maybe if we used like a glazed porcelain gaiwan, it might be better. I believe this is Dehua porcelain here, so pretty good material. We'll see. Ugh. Oh, God, why does it taste like that? I don't understand, Steven. Ugh. It's like wet dog and raw egg, and then also astringent. What is going on? Ooh. Tea curious. Tea curiosity kills the cat today, I think. One more attempt. Let's try to like rally some energy and see if I can get this going before we sign off. I mean, it can only go up from here, right? And yeah, it's good to work with challenging teas. I'm just being nihilistic right now because I don't, I'm just like I want to make it work. So Steven's second steep on this tea. It smells like raw egg white again. Hey, it might be that you guys don't, if you were given this, you might not get raw egg white, but Steven and I independently came to the wet dog conclusion. So, subjective, but also if it's there, dude, it's there. That's better, but it's still got the egg white note. It's a little bit less wet dog, a little bit more egg white. Did you increase the temperature or?
Yeah.
Okay. So the wet dog specifically, more animally, like off flavor, occurs in this green tea at a lower temperature. If you use a higher temperature, the wet dog transforms to egg white, raw egg white. But then it's so sensitive that the stringency comes out. Man. Whew. Yeah, so Shiloh says regarding the unglazed porcelain, correct. So kaolin, the full mineral name is kaolinite, can be fired to a higher temperature and become more glossy without glaze. Okay, the higher the temperature goes, the glossier the porcelain will become. It begins to more chemically resemble glass. Cool. So then, if you're talking about just typical porcelain like this, is there a glaze applied to the kaolin or kaolinite, or is it just fired so high that there's a glassy, glaze that forms? So this one in particular, I wonder. I will attempt this one more time. Tea practice, man. The universe is like, you want to call it tea practice? We'll have tea practice. Let's try this again. I'm gonna. Is it okay if I set the temperature a little bit higher, Steven?
Sure.
I'm gonna boiling temperature it. Okay. And then Shiloh says you can just put a glossy clear glaze over a lower temp porcelain. Yeah, I want to tell the difference between what's the porcelain just becoming like glassy because it's a high temp or just a low glaze. I mean a low temperature. Word's hard. So this is the unglazed porcelain. This is the seemingly glazed porcelain. You can kind of see how this is almost like eggshelly. Oh, eggshell. I don't want to talk about eggshell right now, but it's more matte. And this one here is really shiny. And when you drag your hand over this, it's not necessarily rough, but there's a little bit more of that matte thing going on. This one here is like, like glass. It's very slippery. So yeah, this is more slippery, it slips around. This one's got a little bit more give to it. Yeah. Shiloh, I only know of Dehua and Jingdezhen porcelain being fired to a glossy texture without glaze for production wares. Now I wonder if that occurs when the gaiwan is very, very thin. I wonder. Because I have a hand-painted gaiwan that doesn't seem to have a glaze applied to it. If I think about it, it's very, very, very thin. Ooh, to tell if your tea bowl is glazed, check the foot of the pot. Is the foot satin or matte, or is it also glossy? The foot, you mean this part here? So the part that's been, it's more rough actually. But this part here with the stamp is more glossy. And then the foot, which I never noticed before, is actually more matte, closer to the feeling of this here. So, yeah, that's really, really interesting. I never realized that was a thing. I'm also curious to see if the lid, ooh, yeah, it's got like a matte thing going on right here. This part is more matte and kind of unglazed feeling. Then the moment you skip to the body of the lid and to the top of the lid, it gets glossy again. What does that mean? I don't know. While you answer that question so kindly for us, I will do one last attempt at this. Whew. Oh man. Oh manny, 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 man. Ugh. Tea practice, man. Shiloh. Yes, if the foot is more matte, then the matte part is the porcelain. There's a clear glaze applied over the porcelain. Okay. Cool. So then I know that this is a clear glaze applied then to this particular piece. wonder if that can be used for. Ooh, yeah. You can. Wow, I can do it for like other things too. That's really cool. So this I think is porcelain with glaze applied. So that's really something interesting. So if you guys have porcelain at home, check to see if the foot of the cup or gaiwan or pot has a different texture than the body. Because this one here is shiny, that goes rough, then shiny, then rough. So right here is where the clear glaze was applied, and then they had like a little part here that it didn't get applied to. I guess because it has to sit on something, you know? I guess. This is why we have experts like Shiloh, who is Nuev Orden on Instagram, if you'd like to follow his tea journey as well. I learned so much from him and from everyone, but yeah, thank you. Okay, let's rally. One last attempt, guys. Let's see if we can do this. And if not, you can't say we didn't try. Okay. I'm willing to try this again with like lighter water, but at this point, I'm just like, we're just babying it too much. I think if you're trying to baby the tea too much and it's not giving you anything back, sometimes tea is just not that great. So we'll see. Cool beans. Let's get these beans on the road. That's the nicest smell I've had all day from this tea. Thank God. Yeah, that's actually just fresh vegetables. A little bit of corn, actually. That's really nice. I really, really enjoy the smell. Wow, Eric, maybe you're right. We shouldn't have used the glazed, from the very beginning. Eric was like, use a glazed pot if possible. That's lovely. That's like roasted, barely roasted corn. It's got some fresh notes to it. No off notes at all whatsoever. And I'm like digging into it. Yeah, it smells great. It's even got like a little bit of like fruit to it. Wow. I'm excited. Let's see if we can get something going on here. And then I will maintain the hot temperature, and I will try to very carefully brew this by pouring on the side of the gaiwan. This is so that I can use pretty hot temperature without jostling the leaves too much. Because if I pour directly on the leaves instead of on the side, I'm just hitting them a little bit too much with the hot water. This gives you the best of both worlds. I'm trying not to disturb them too much, because when you use the spout, that stream coming from a gooseneck is pretty intense. You can kind of like agitate the leaves a little bit too much, over extract them more than you think. Yeah, this is nice. I can see the leaves opening up. This is why I love gaiwans. They're just so interactive. I can kind of see how the tea is doing. Feeling better about this for sure. And Eric told you so, but you're the one who said that it was okay to use the Korean pot. I would have done the gaiwan if you were like, use the Korean pot. So told you so, sort of. Told you sort of. Okay, this looks pretty good. Ooh, I need to preheat this. Is it worth it to preheat it for the extra couple seconds? I think so. Yeah, I'm off by a couple seconds then. But I want this baby to be preheated because that was ice cold. All right. I feel so at home using a gaiwan. Just feels good. This isn't even my favorite gaiwan. This is one of my gaiwans that are okay. But yeah. Let them breathe a little bit, and then I will cover the gaiwan, as we learned yesterday during our hangout on Discord. There's a tiny bit of raw egg white smell, but it's the sweet kind of egg white smell. Much better than what we've had so far. And then let's try both cups just to see. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Steven, this is actually palatable. It's a little bit, a little bit astringent, but The flavor is pretty nice. I just shouldn't have waited that extra couple seconds. I should have had the pitcher preheated. Yeah, Steven, where's your cup? I want to show you that it's not always going to be a train wreck. I can almost see this tea being part of Green Tea Drink Down next year, though. Just having that flash forward. Remember this egg white wet dog tea we had last year during the coronavirus shutdown? Yeah, that's a lot better. A lot better. Thank goodness gracious me. Ooh. Right? It's a lot better.
Tolerable.
What's that?
It's tolerable now.
Yeah. It's actually pleasant now. You know, it was pleasant in the Korean pot, but some of the off notes came out. But the Gaiwan is the one that's it's just driving. So yeah, it took us 4 different attempts to get to a good result with this tea. I'm not even sure if I like this result or if it's just better than the train wreck results we had in the middle, you know. But I'm happy we kind of had a progression of results here. We've gone through a lot of that tea already. And then there is aftertaste, which is nice. It's kind of cooling. It's not extremely sweet, but at least there is aftertaste. The last, you know, other than the very first steep from the very first pot, we didn't get much aftertaste going on, but there is some going on here. It's a little bit fragrant, tiny bit sweet, more of a cooling sensation. Nothing to write home about, but at least it's not wet dog. And then we'll do one more infusion of this, just to make sure it's not a fluke, you know. Yeah, wow, that's actually pleasant, you know. I feel so rewarded. So yeah, through the struggle, I'm just realizing now that maybe, you know, you really need to use glazed for Korean greens. I'm like spooked now. You put the fear of God in me, Eric. Yeah, I'm gonna cool this down because even with the really, really delicate pour I did earlier, it did not like the boiling water. Such a finicky tea. What a diva. What a diva. Now, what's the purpose of doing this? The thing is, I can control what teas I have at home that I brew. I can control what I pick at home. But what if you're faced with a situation where you have to brew like a tea that's not something you don't know very well or with conditions that you're not used to? And this is a really good kind of example of that because Eric picked the tea for me. My friend gifted the tea to me. I don't know much about it. We didn't know what teaware to use. We didn't know how I'd perform. Really quite challenging and very kind of fun, especially since we got a good result at the end. Finally, some aftertaste too, like actual flavor. Wow, I'm shocked that this tea turned around. Dude, if anything too, it's not just this tea, but the fact that, holy crap, your teaware can make such a big difference. That's insane. So the teaware could be the difference between the vendor getting a review that says, oh, wet dog and egg white. The wet dog, both Steven and I like came to the same conclusion without telling each other. He's just like wet dog too. And if you use just the right teaware, it could be saving that tea from a bad review. I should have used the Gaiwan to start with. I always say that. Use teaware that you know is gonna, you know pretty well. It's standard. Yeah. Last little cup of this. I got a little bit more of that sweet raw egg white, which is a lot better. No wet dog. And yeah, a little bit with like corn, like veggie thing going on too. Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised by this. And like Eric said, it's, glazed teaware was the preferred. In conclusion, not the most favorite tea in the world, but we got somewhere, we got further than I thought I would than when we were down in the weeds by, attempt 2 and 3. Both Steven and me had a struggle with this. Yeah. Wow. So I'm gonna need to recover after this for sure. Take a tea break. And even in the Woodfire Cup, wow, the Woodfire Cup is doing well with it. Nice. Yeah, that's actually better. It's better in the Woodfire Cup. More of the sweetness comes out. More of the astringency comes out too. It's quite drying. So I think there is a better cup to use, I think, than this particular Woodfire Cup. But I guess it's possible to use a Woodfire Cup of some kind to bring more sweetness out. And we're left with just this cooling aftertaste. So yeah, I think we're good. We got somewhere. We explored some things. We definitely did some practice. Pushed hard. Yeah. I need to go. I need to go take a break. So thank you so much for joining us for this first foray
Time for
into
some fun.
YouTube.
You can ask me for some
Oh my
jokes.
god,
I'll
no,
find you a
no,
fun
no.
fact.
What the hell? This is crazy.
What sounds best?
No, that's my Google Home. Google Assistant. Google Assistant. Hey Google. Hey Google.
The mic is off. I don't know why it does that.
Hi.
What can I do for you?
Oh wow.
Hi Google. Can you
Never
turn
mind.
off? Did she turn off? Hey Google. Oh my god, I see it flashing over there. Okay, I gotta sign off and like make sure that this thing isn't. That's creepy. Okay.
Got it.
It knows that we're trying to sign off. So thank you for joining us. This has been really fun. First foray into YouTube Live. Again, we will be doing this more on YouTube. Hopefully this format's better for us to. Oh my god, Eric's Google activated too. It's crazy. Now they know we're connected. This is creepy. I don't want to be connected to Eric. I'm just kidding, Eric. I'm just kidding. So thank you again. And yeah, for those of you who are joining us for the Puer Challenge, oh, there it is. It's a Puer Challenge. So we're doing the challenge in April on the theme of Puer. We're calling it the Puer Love Challenge. So the hashtag will be Puer Love or Puer Love Challenge. I want to see how it feels typing it out.
Isn't it love core or is
Um,
it core love?
Or love Puer. We'll see. We gotta ask the Discord on this because number one, if you love Puer, you'll do the challenge anyway. Number two, if you don't love Puer, that's the challenge. So, personally, I was inspired by our friend Ian on the Discord who was like, hey, you guys do a lot of Japanese green and other teas. Interestingly, for a tea community, we don't really do a lot of Puer. And I was like, wow, you're right. I think that might be my fault because I don't talk about Puer as much. Maybe I just put off people who don't think that I like Puer. I do like Puer, but I don't explore it as much. So I think this would be a good another kind of like push for me personally to try to explore more. And for you guys out there who might not have as much Puer experience or kind of like a little bit trying to get into it, it's a perfect time to go explore. So the challenge will be to drink down 7 Puer teas or more. But the ask is you need to figure out which Puer you like the best from the entire set. I want you guys to make an opinion about what you liked. And I have opinions on what Puer I like, but I think it's good to kind of just dedicate some time into seeing what else I might like. Or if I like the same things I always have, then I can double down on feeling confident that that's what I want to buy. So we're announcing this a little bit early just so that people can go and order some Puer, have some time to get it in and stuff like that. Have some time for the package to sit so it's, gonna kill all the COVID that's on it. The challenge will start April 1. And no, it's not a joke, but it will start April 1. It's kind of a joke because I don't drink that much Puer, but perfect, It's good to challenge ourselves. So I'm really excited, kind of out of my comfort zone, but yeah, Puer, show Puer. I don't think we're doing Heicha. We're just going to focus on Puer because it's so, it's already so complex there. Yeah, so perfect.
Are we starting on the 1st or are we
We're
starting
starting
on
on
the first Sunday, which is the 5th?
We're starting the 1st. I
Okay.
think we talked about this, yeah. So all the challenges on Tea Curious will start the 1st of the month. Depending, if someone revolts and says it's better to have on the first Sunday, we might change it. But I think the 1st is easier to remember than the first Sunday. Like when I look at my phone, I'm like, it's March 1st. It's better than like, it's the first Sunday. I don't even know what number Wednesday it is today. Do you? I don't know. So there you go. So yeah, thank you for joining us. This has been fun, challenging. Hope you guys had some fun with us too. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you. I don't know how to turn this one off. There's no like Instagram, but there it is, end stream. Thanks.